everybody. I'm Thad Peterson from IT Group, and I'm here to talk with a couple of other brilliant people about delighting mobile app users with an awe-inspiring and mobile payment experience. And I have to say that this is actually, that's a true statement, even though it sounds a little bit over the top. This is really an impressive application, and we're actually going to step through it as a case study, which is really good. My panelists today are Laura Goucher, Vice President of Engagement with MindGrub. Hello, Laura.
Hi.
And Gabe Nunez, Senior E-Channel Program Manager for BG&E. And the two of them work together on this application, so they'll be talking a lot about it. So with that, why don't we go ahead and kick it off and talk a little bit about what it takes to build one of these things. Keys to an optimal customer experience. One of the things that's really important in my mind is that you think about the customer from their use case and their perception. A lot of technology is developed in the sense of the technology is really cool, so let's make humans use it. But it's really important that the design be human-centered. Laura, what do you think?
Great, yes. So before we dive more deeply into the BGE case study, we did want to highlight, as Thad mentioned, a few important keys to creating that optimal user experience. And one thing I want to clarify before we speak to this in greater detail is that when we're referring to the mobile application, we are referring to native mobile applications. So those are applications that are downloaded from the iOS and Android stores rather than a responsive web-based application. And there's some important differences between those platforms. So I did want to clarify that when we're talking about the app, that we are in fact referring to a native, fully custom mobile application that was built. And with that in mind, we do have a few core considerations that we are always thinking of when we are building one of these great experiences for customers. And as we mentioned, it really is utilizing a user-first approach with a focus in human-centered design. And a human-centered design approach starts always with understanding the people that you're designing for and ending up with a solution that is tailor-made to address their needs. And we begin this process with collecting a huge amount of information about those customers, as well as actually speaking with them, getting to understand their pain points, getting to understand what they're looking for out of a mobile application or really any product that you could be thinking of. And that helps inform all of the important requirements gathering that will set the stage for what you're actually going to build. So we take that information from that discovery phase, and that is used to create things like user personas, user journeys, user stories, all of which are used to form the requirements that build your product. A lot of times companies will start with a requirements list before they actually talk to customers and other business stakeholders about what actually should be built. And this is a common problem that we see. And when you don't start with that user-first approach, sometimes you can go in the wrong direction. I'll turn it over to Thad for this.
And that's so important to start with a persona, really getting the idea of who the user is in your head and how they're going to be using it. And I think there are so many projects that are built from a requirements listing, and that's exactly what you end up with, is an application of the requirements listing rather than the people. Another thing that's very important is to minimize complexity, keep it really, really simple. You know, you have a lot of different people out there with different levels of literacy and technology, and that's particularly true post-pandemic, as a lot of people in demographics that weren't ordinarily using technology have migrated into the technology sphere. And so there's a lot of people out there who are not native users, if you will, of this technology that need to be there. And it's really important that the application address that. One of the things that I rant about all the time is that friction in payments is failure. Friction in commerce is failure. Anything that stops somebody or slows a person down from doing what it is that they want to do is going to result in somebody going someplace else. And so it's very, very important that it stays as simple as it possibly can be.
The next key consideration is always to incorporate the latest technologies, even if they're new for your organization. With a lot of our clients, especially in the utility and government sectors, mobile applications are still a relatively new technology, and they're aren't part of the traditional IT infrastructure. And this can raise a lot of questions when it comes to security. How do we maintain it? Who's going to maintain it? Do we need to hire mobile application developers? There's a lot of questions that arise when you're introducing something completely new to your digital ecosystem. But
Mm-hmm.
hesitancy shouldn't be a barrier, because again, customer expectations are at a place where they need support on mobile devices. They're by far, surpassing desktop and other methods of communication. So the utilities, that we've worked with, including BGE, while recognizing these potential challenges, work with the teams to really help socialize what the benefits could be. And we've oftentimes found that with this understanding of what those benefits could be, we're able to, collaborate with teams to overcome any of those potential challenges. And oftentimes there's a lot of surprises. So for example, from our perspective, native mobile applications can be an even more secure platform than web applications. And a lot of times it's just dispelling some of these common myths that would be associated with something new.
Mm-hmm. And, we talked about the persona and how important it is to understand the individual using it, but it's also really important to understand the context in which it's going to be used. What is it going to be used for? Where is the consumer going to be using it? When is the consumer going to be using it? Is it something that they're going to be using every day, every hour? Is it something that they're going to look at once a week, once a month? All of that stuff really matters in terms of how the app is designed and applied to that individual. And so once you've got the persona, you have to get the context and where it's going to be used. And with those two things, you can start to really build out a vision of how this app is going to be able to help that consumer do what it is you want them to do.
Yeah, the next key consideration, and something that we run into a lot of times, not with BGE, of course, but with other customers that we've worked with, is that oftentimes the mobile app is seen as a one and done project. We've built the mobile app, great, we launch it to customers, and then what's next? A lot of times, organizations will not have in-house development teams with the skill sets to manage native mobile applications. And as a result, as you can probably see when you visit the app stores, it's a boneyard for a lot of abandoned applications. One really remarkable part of the work we've done with BGE and Exelon is that we've continuously looked for opportunities to enhance as well as maintain the mobile application. This application was built several years ago, but the customer wouldn't necessarily know it because we're always adding new innovation to it, we're always improving, and we're always taking into account new devices and operating system guidelines that are introduced. So it's really important that when you're planning to build a mobile application, or you're potentially revisiting a mobile application that has ended up in the boneyard, that you're not only thinking about that original development project, but you're also thinking about how you're going to support it after launch and planning your phase 2 before you've even finalized your phase 1. It's really important.
Yep.
And makes the mobile application a platform for innovation. Not just that one and done project that is a check on the checklist of things you should have as an organization. And then the last recommendation, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to throw in that the way I view this is you have to kind of look at it as an organic thing. It's almost like an organism. It's not an application. It's a living thing that is being used and applied in different ways, and it never really stops growing and morphing and changing if it's going to be successful.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the last recommendation we have, this is a holistic recommendation for all mobile applications, is that we strongly encourage usability testing and ongoing user feedback. This loops back to the idea of that user-first approach guiding how you're going to design and build your app. So since we're talking about BGE in this presentation, just speaking to that project, the team had conducted over 115 usability tests during the first phase of the application build. And that was really important to ensure that the team was building the right thing and that any pain points around critical transactional features, especially payments, um, were addressed early on before launch. And there's also a common misconception that once you've done your usability testing and you launch the app, that you don't need to continue doing usability testing. But you do. Anytime you're introducing new features, anytime you're changing content, anytime that there's a big event that may impact those customers, for example, COVID and its impact on billing and payments and service delivery, you have to be revisiting the usability testing. You also need to make sure you're doing your usability testing with a wide group of customers. There isn't, as we said, you're going to have multiple personas, and you need to make sure that you're testing with those different groups. One unique thing that we've always recommended is partnership with groups that are focused on accessibility testing. So with the BGE mobile app, we partnered with an accessibility partner and had users with blindness and visual disabilities test the mobile app. And we were able to get a huge amount of insights, not only to make sure that the app was fully ADA compliant, but also that it was a really easy, wonderful experience for all types of users. So always think about this as part of your project plan because it brings a wealth of value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to summarize this slide, know who you're talking to, know why you're talking to them, and check back often to make sure that you're communicating. Those are kind of like the guidelines for this. So let's go ahead and take a look at the application itself.
This has been my opportunity to jump in. I couldn't agree more with everything you guys have shared. I'm almost reminiscent about the experience of bringing this application to life, which was, quote, probably the best project that I've been involved in the recent past, and certainly a pleasure to be with. Again, just a little background about my organization, BGE. We are the largest utility in the state of Maryland. Our service territory encompasses the vast majority of central Maryland, and we have approximately 1.3 million gas and electric customers. The story behind the mobile app and really how we came about it, it really marked a transitional point within the organization where for a long time, the primary focus had been on what we call the pipes and wires. And not to say that that is still not an area of focus. Clearly, it is. Reliability of service is one of our top objectives. But from a chronology perspective, what was happening as we were exploring new channels, there was also an organizational shift internally that was looking at opportunities to become more customer-centric, more customer-focused. And that change that cultural change that was happening coincided with the opportunity here to collaborate here with MindGrab for the development of the mobile app. Two key components that were different than projects that preceded it had to do with focusing on customer feedback and user-centered design. The truth is, when we embarked on the project for the first time, the notion of user-centered design seemed like it was a net new term. It's not necessarily something that we had a lot of familiarity with in the utility business. And from a customer feedback perspective and having that feedback informed direction, the truth is that we had relied for a long time on internal expertise. Me, the utility worker, I understand the customer, I understand what they need. I'm going to decide what we should give them. And I don't necessarily think there's a lot wrong with that, but this really was a departure from that, where we, quote unquote, the utility employee took us back seat to like, what is the data actually telling us? Not only from, as Laura mentioned, from a usability perspective in terms of the whole thing works, but more also in the context of what is it that our customers were looking for. And a particular shift that I found interesting as this project came together was that traditionally we had relied on essentially the most important person in the room would make the decision in terms of what features of what we were going to implement. And that actually had to be turned around on its head and give preference to what the data was giving us and what the customers needed. And we did that obviously with the support here from MindGrab, holding our hands for what was essentially a brand new process for us on leveraging data at the customer level and having that shift of focus that ultimately drove the adoption of this new platform for us. on the screen right now, you see there's a number of things that came about, the effortless and engaging interactions, flexible payment arrangements, and a number of things that not only frankly proved to be the right answer in my opinion, but we iterated through. It wasn't, we didn't necessarily turn the thing on and it was all there. Through the process, BGE had to also adjust itself to the notion of MVP, the notion of multiple releases, and the fact that the process is iterative. That was certainly a change for us, but one that I'm very glad that I went through, as well as my peers within the organization. So let's talk a little bit about payments. This is probably the highlight of the application, and it's twofold. Number one, customer data and the information that we capture as part of that initial design phase clearly indicated that the number one reason customers were coming to our digital channels to engage was to pay their bill. And if you think about it, that makes sense. It's a repeatable transaction. It occurs on a monthly basis, but every 28 days is the billing cycle. And they had us coming over the course of the year to do what they need to do. But not only that, early on you mentioned about how friction creates an obstacle that ultimately could lead to failure. So we had some understanding, although limited at the time, that we needed to make the payment feature as fluid, as effortless as possible. And it was the collaboration with our partner here, MindGrub, to be able to essentially put together a user experience that not only was frictionless, but it also was highly informed by the customer and what they wanted. And it ultimately created a digital process that was very convenient. It was accurate, highly secure, and ultimately led to the business outcomes that we were hoping to achieve. And it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody if I tell you that we continue to grow in the direction of increased digital adoption. And that is part of kind of the broad strategy of what we're trying to do within the utility.
Yeah, one thing, Gabe, I would throw in here is that, security is really important, but it's the perception of security from a consumer's perspective that really matters. And, you can have all the best technology in the background that protects it, but if the consumer doesn't feel like it's actually secure and safe, yes, then it doesn't really matter. And so that's where you have to look at the context of the customer and the user experience, even in the whole security equation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we felt like one of the best ways to get a sense of the mobile application is to actually show a video of it. So we'll take a quick break and show you the video that highlights the core features and functionality of the mobile app. Oops, sorry about that.
Our BGE app is new. Look at everything you can do. Pay your bill. Report an outage. Check the status of an outage. View your energy usage. Receive alerts and set notifications. Secure, easy, convenient. From the moment you pick it up until you put it away. The new BGE app. Download it today at the App Store and Google Play.
Okay.
Very cool.
I love that commercial, by the way, personally. But yeah, absolutely. And Thad, I wanted to kind of build on what you were saying about the perception of security and the role that authentication plays in that. When we were first working on the feature, the notion of being able to leverage native components of the technology that is essentially as part of the device, whether it is your fingerprint or your face or whatever it is these days, the initial intent was that of security, and it ultimately it was surprising to see that not only did we cover that in terms of the perception that the platform is secure, but the biggest thing that I want to highlight about the biometric authentication feature is that it removed a considerable amount of friction in the login process, and we had some awareness that customers had some level of difficulty in terms of accessing certainly the web, which would be more of a legacy channel, but we knew that had become an obstacle, and that obstacle inevitably was leading to people not being able to self-serve. One of the most positively surprising things that happened was through the introduction of this feature, we saw an increase in the amount of not only the adoption of the technology, but the ease in which the customer was able to effectively get through that authentication component and then reach the self-service transactions that are on essentially on the other side of that wall. And that has proven, in my opinion, the key catalyst and the key success criteria for why the mobile app has become our premier channel within the utility.
And do you do facial as well as fingerprint?
Yeah,
like
yeah. As a
Apple
matter of fact, the
iOS?
phone ultimately is leveraging the technology that is native to the phone itself. So if you were to have, let's say, an old iPhone or I guess an Android, then it leverages that security function. If you have to have the newer iPhone when they transition to the face technology recognition, then it uses that, and it did all seamlessly, which was pretty neat. It was almost like plug and play, to be honest with you, at least from my perspective in the business, which made kind of keeping up with the new technology, and to Laura's point earlier about leveraging the latest technology that is available to our customers, frankly, quite easy. So yeah, absolutely.
So
on this screen, I wanted to touch a little bit on, of course, they're coming to pay, but as you can imagine, the second most popular thing they come to do, our customers, is there's usually questions about bill, energy consumption, how much do they have to pay, when is it due, all that billing information. And what the mobile app allowed us to do was, frankly, just kind of put that information in front of customers in a way that was very effective. The information was this all was essentially reimagining the way that this information is presented to the customer, again, informed by the usability testing that we did, as well as through the customer feedback that we would collect. And ultimately, what it resulted is with a number of screens that do one thing very well. They bring visibility to key pieces of information that are relevant to the customer without overwhelming them, and it allows it and presents all that information in an interface that is actually quite intuitive for them to use, which was pretty neat. I still remember being what was it? It's like almost like that mirror thing where you can see people, but they can't see you, as we were going through that exercise, and seeing a customer, a test customer in this scenario, using the platform for the very first time and being able to navigate really without any instruction on our part on where they needed to go to find any particular piece of information, and seeing them succeed, and frankly, seeing the expression on their faces, in their eyes, being able to find what they were looking for quickly, was precious. And again, this is also a key success criteria for how the mobile app has positioned itself as our premier customer channel today. Oh, my wallet, yes. So this, again, an extension of the kind of that payment functionality. This, ultimately what it does is it provides a repository of customers' payment information for them to be able to engage in that kind of payment flow. Then the cool thing here is, and you could think it's pretty straightforward, but it was still certainly new to us at the utility at the time, but also for us as an experience to our customers, was the ability to very quickly manage multiple payment accounts within a particular utility account. From a residential perspective, is you would think it's actually pretty straightforward. I consume electricity at my house, I pay with my bank account. It's a pretty straightforward scenario, but it's important to remember that we have multiple use cases and multiple categories of customers. So small, medium businesses, larger commercial customers, they can really take this functionality and expand it and being able to kind of manage that payment mechanism with a level of control that they really didn't have before. All of this very secure. We take, obviously, PII information, and all the transaction data is obviously very secure. But in addition to that, we made it very easy for them to manage, which then shows, as we're tracking transactions in the back end to assess the utilization of the channel, we're seeing that the function is doing exactly what it needs to do, which is quick access to the information, but without any friction. Yeah, very, very happy about this feature too.
Another great component to the BGE app is it offers customers the ability to enroll in different payment arrangements that can certainly be of great benefit to them. In turn, the utility is also able to receive faster and more consistent payments, so it's a win on both sides. One such great example is with AutoPay. Customers are able to easily and securely add their bank account information as well as customize their preferences as related to AutoPay. So for example, the customer can set when they want the payment to be processed in a given month. They can also set not to exceed amounts so they don't have any overdraft issues or any surprises. And what I consider unique about this is that level of personalization of the experience. For a lot of competitor, well, not really competitor, but different peer applications, it's kind of a one size fits all. You enroll in it and you either have it or you don't. This app takes it a step further and really gives the customer a lot of choice when it comes to these programs. And as a result, you have a much higher rate of enrollment because they have the reassurance that, for example, they know exactly when that funds are going to be drawn from their account. They know that if they have a surprise bill because one month is incredibly hot, that they're going to get notification on that as opposed to it just coming out of their account. And I think that's what, again, it sets it apart because it has that user centricity.
Yeah, one other thing, you know, what you're doing here with the customization is you're creating a positive feedback loop with the customer. So they have an issue, this addresses the issue, and every time they do that again, it reinforces their decision to work with you and reinforces their decision to use the app. So it's really a great way to improve customer relations as well.
Certainly. There's also additional program enrollments in the mobile app. So for example, we highlighted here budget filling. This allows eligible customers to spread out their utility payments evenly throughout the year, which can eliminate some of the seasonal variation, like higher bills in the heat of summer, in the middle of winter, and obviously is a great value to those customers. In addition, there's enrollments in programs such as paperless e-bill. Obviously, this supports, and has a great environmental impact by reducing the amount of paper, but also can reduce costs for the utility as well as just provide a more convenient channel for customers. Right now, people don't really like getting that much mail anymore, and that can reduce it. Also, we find that, of course, mail takes a while and delivery. So again, with the idea of faster transactions, this certainly supports that. We've also experimented with some fun things like adding gamification to the BGE mobile app, the pilot right now. And one core component to that pilot is figuring out how we can further increase the completion and enrollment in various programs that the utility may be wanting to position customers to opt into for a multitude of different KPIs. So that's been a really fun experience that we've also collaborated with the team on. In addition, sorry, Gabe.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit to the previous slide, if I may. I obviously agree with everything you said, but I also want to point out that the mobile app has been particularly successful at bringing visibility to other programs that are of tremendous service to the customer. Briefly, on the budget billing perspective, by removing that balance anxiety, right, of not knowing what that, because it fluctuates, right, because it's based on consumption, but removing the question of how much is going to be due, we have seen that translate into essentially the call volume. There's a call volume relationship there in terms of they know what to expect, they're not surprised by a high bill, and frankly, it removes kind of that friction point, at least from a phone call perspective. And from an e-bill enrollment, the mobile app has been particularly advantageous there. Not only is the customer then empowered to receive the information digitally and have direct, quick access to that information, but it would be a shame if I didn't acknowledge the fact that there are some significant organizational cost savings from an O&M perspective on the cost that is involved with the mailings of this. So that particular program not only benefits the customer, but has some very real cost benefits for us as the organization as well. And the mobile app has been key in bringing visibility and driving adoption to all those programs.
The final feature we wanted to highlight was around alert management. So customers can easily enroll in a variety of different alerts and push notifications. Common types specifically related to payments are things like bill is ready, bill is due, bill is past due, but it also covers things like outage reporting, power restoration, and things like that. One common complaint with push notifications from users is that they feel like they receive too many and that they're not personalized. The BGE app does a really great job at combating that by allowing users to opt in specifically to the types of notifications that they may want. So they may not want any notifications related to payments and billing, but they want the notifications for outage or vice versa. And they can control that. So it combats that common issue that organizations face with their push notification strategy in a really nice way. So again, they can select what they want and decline what they don't want.
Laura, if I may, just wanted to expand on that one as well, just briefly, and it's just a recent memory. BGE recently held, we had an Energy Savings Day event just last week, and that's from a behavioral program to encourage customers to manage consumption at home during really hot days. That particular team has been particularly effective in leveraging the alert system within the mobile app to communicate both the pre-event notification that the event is coming, so the customer can take proactive action in doing what they do to lower consumption and maximize their credits that they receive as a result. And then the post communication after the fact, once the behavior, ultimately once they get the credit and they know how much money they were able to frankly make as a result of their behavioral change. So again, just a very, very successful feature that has had benefits broadly within the organization.
Yeah, I'm a BGE customer and I saved $3. It was great.
Hey, that's good. That's good. I think I did a little better than you, but it's not a competition. Let's move on to our results here. I've said this before, the BG, for us at BG, the mobile app really has quickly positioned itself as our premier channel. And you'll see here a couple of reasons why. We're very proud of our average app rating in the store of 4.6 from 5. We actively engage with customers. We take that feedback very seriously, but as you can see, broadly speaking, there's high levels of satisfaction coming from the users using our mobile app. So it's a big point of pride for us organizationally. The mobile app often comes up in customer feedback that's uncovered as part of our kind of JD Powers survey information that we collect, and continues to be a strong kind of pusher of us doing well in that category, which is part of obviously one of our key metrics that we monitor organizationally. We are now, again, if you think about it, we have 1.3 million customers. We're over almost 500,000 application downloads. It says, surpassed initial expectations, and it absolutely did. And certainly the speed by which we got to that point surprised a lot of us. It has outpaced right now, and I think this may be, I'm stealing from the next slide, but it continues to be a rapidly fastest growing channel, and now is kind of outpacing the web in terms of being the kind of our number one channel. From a metrics reporting perspective, we manage or closely manage and monitor the success transaction rates of different transactions within the application. And at 97%, the mobile app is at the very top of the list. Lastly, year over year, we continue to see that increase. You see the numbers here, 24.8% and then 25.7% in terms of that upward climb. And you can actually see here in the slide on the right side of the screen, but that trend is undeniable, that it continues to grow, and that adoption, it seems to have no end. So I'm hoping that is the case. And these are just four. I could really probably spend a lot of time here. Laura, I'm sure you can jump in too, but I'll touch on a couple of these. We already mentioned that fastest growing channel, continuing to drive ever-growing percentage of digital self-service transactions. So compared to web, compared to IVR, compared to all the other channels, the mobile app really is the leader. I do want to acknowledge that we have seen what we call some cannibalization. We have seen the shift of a subset of customers that were technology prone, or they were technology inclined, and they have been kind of moving away from the web into the mobile app. As long as they remain in the digital channel, for us, that's ultimately a win, but it's also a testament of the kind of the reliability and the functionality that the mobile app provides over the web. It's interesting to point out, though, that not everything you can do on the web, you can do on the mobile app. The mobile app has been, to an extent, catered or has been closely managed to make sure that we're optimizing the transactions that are available through the mobile app as we continue to do the releases. But at the same time, as the adoption rate continues to grow, we're looking to continue to build the feature set on what's available through the mobile app. Excuse me. I mentioned the effectiveness of push notifications for the energy savings program and another business programs. That has personally been probably one of the biggest surprises of just how effective that channel has been. In the past, there was over-reliance on phone calls and dialer calls. We obviously ultimately transitioned to email and text messages, but push notifications has that kind of upward pattern, just like we're seeing on the mobile app. And in the biometric screen, I talked about how that removal of the traditional friction through the login process has led to what we have seen as year-over-year increased adoption of the technology, and ultimately speaking to the amount of customers that are choosing the mobile app as their preferred channel to engage with the utility.
That's great. And we're pretty much out of time. We don't have any questions yet. If there is a question, we can probably take one or two. But I think the great lesson that I have from this is that great apps are apps that are designed for the people based on what the people say and how the people use it and what the purpose of the app is. And I think that this is perhaps the best example of that I've seen in a really long time. Very, very well done, Gabe and Laura. It's really an excellent product. If there are no questions, which I don't see, thank you all very much. Thank you, Gabe and Laura, for a really terrific presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time today.
All right, take care, everybody.
If anyone has any questions, please use the forum. We're happy to answer them. Have a good day.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.